Today we'll be starting off with the latest Starship news going on right meow in Boca Chica, Texas. Then quickly go over some Dragon news. We'll debrief this week's Falcon 9 launch for the United States Space Force, and look at the launch itinerary for this month, and finish with today's honorable mention. I'm Kevin, and this is SpaceX in the News. Starship SN5 is built and at the launch site, undergoing its series of stress tests. On Tuesday night, the vehicle underwent a gaseous ambient pressure test to check for leaks before being filled just hours later with supercooled liquid nitrogen for cryotesting. Both tests were completed successfully, and afterward the hydraulic rams, used to simulate Raptor engine thrust, were removed from under the stand to make way for an actual engine to be installed. That Raptor was spotted by Lab Padre just this morning, making its way down Highway 4 toward the vehicle. In the coming days, we can expect a wet dress rehearsal or two to take place, filling the vessel up with liquid oxygen and methane before performing a pre-burner startup and static fire, which is currently scheduled to take place on Wednesday next week. How many startups isn't clear at the moment, however SN4 performed 5 static fire tests before it succumbed to physics. But if all goes well and everything checks out, then maybe, just maybe, we'll see this giant gas can fly 150 meters up and back down. Meanwhile, up the road at the construction site where starships are assembled, parts for Starship's giant super heavy booster high bay have arrived. And a big blue crane, nicknamed Bluezilla by the community, because, we have to give everything a nickname, has been assembled possibly so that those parts can be stacked super high. However, perhaps it could also be used to stack nose cones on starships. A couple of them have been spotted in their natural habitat, leaving the nest.
Whoo! Danger, danger, danger.
Fins that will be used for controlling the first Starship in freefall, and a downcomer used to pump methane from a header tank to the engines, needed for landing burns, have also been spotted on site over the past couple of weeks, so things are getting so seriously.
I am super duper serial.
Transitioning now to Crew Dragon news. This week and last week, astronauts Bob and Chris went on 2 EVAs to replace the space station's AA batteries. I'm just kidding. It's a little more complicated than that. The old batteries were of an aging nickel hydrogen variety, and the new are a lithium ion with a smaller mass of 428 pounds. And during the job, Commando Chris snapped this Polaroid of the Demo 2 capsule docked to the station in orbit around the Earth. And on the second EVA, Bob snapped one as well. Word from NASA and the astronauts is that the vehicle is doing very well as it awaits its return next month. The next crewed launch is scheduled to come a month later in September, and this is the patch for that particular mission. It was officially released yesterday, but was accidentally leaked last month by one of the crew members. It pays tribute to the Space Shuttle, Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury vehicles, all previous American crewed spacecraft. Let's move on and debrief this week's GPS-3 mission. On Tuesday, SpaceX launched a 100% brand spanking new Falcon 9 rocket for the Space Force's GPS satellite from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. And they used a new one because the military just doesn't like to buy used. However, for the first time, they did save some taxpayer coinage by allowing SpaceX to land that booster on the drone ship. Just read the instructions for future reuse. And land it did. Then an hour and a half after liftoff, the satellite was successfully released and drifted off into the void. Matt managed to capture the fairing halves returning to the Cape yesterday, and they appeared to be in one piece, or 2 separate pieces, but intact. They were fished out of the Atlantic by recovery ships Miss Tree and Miss Chief after parachuting in from space. The boats themselves lacked main netting, so no catch was attempted for this mission. July is now poised to be the first month consisting of 4 SpaceX launches after last week's Starlink launch was pushed to July 8th. But we'll see if the record-setting opportunity holds. Past experience hasn't been so kind. You can watch next week's launch with me live right here on the channel. Now it's time for today's honorable mention. We're back with another segment consisting of 2 noteworthy stories of the week. First up is NASA's Mars 2020 mission, their attempt to place the next rover, Perseverance, on the surface of Mars. Well, it's been delayed to launch no earlier than July 30th due to an issue encountered with a locked sensor line during a wet dress rehearsal of the Atlas V rocket. It was originally scheduled to launch on July 17th, but slipped 3 times to what it is now, eating up nearly half of the launch window. If they don't get it done by mid-August, they'll have to wait another 26 months for Earth to catch back up to Mars in their orbit around the Sun. Percy will collect surface samples and store them for later transport back to Earth in 2026. NASA is currently working with the European Space Agency on those future missions. And the rover will also carry the first of its kind Martian helicopter. I've done a couple honorable mentions on this topic in previous episodes if you're interested. Happy hunting, because I have no idea which episodes they're in. And Kerbal Space Program 2 is back as our second honorable mention of the week. PC Gamer Magazine spent 2 days with the developers of the upcoming space game sequel and shared a treasure trove of fun information we can expect to see in the game. Despite working from home and a change of command concerning publishers since the last time we featured KSP2 on the show, the dev team of more than 30 people is progressing forward as they build our future virtual playground to the stars. We now know that the game will feature greenhouse and nursery modules, allowing Kerbal colonies to procreate, also known as a boom event, and expand further into the Kerbalverse, as well as runways with ramps on the end of them. I don't know, maybe there will be an Evel Knievel Kerman in the game. These colonies won't need to be micromanaged, but will require some attention if you want them to perform. In order to get one started, you'll first have to transport a founder module to your chosen target area. We also recently got a glimpse of the new vehicle assembly building setup with cool effects and color options to choose from for your builds, as well as a much appreciated ability to more easily work on several different rockets or rocket parts at once, and a helpful new trip planner feature that will let the player know the maximum distance into the Kerbalverse the rocket being constructed can travel. There's a new heads-up display with a refined user interface too. The scenery has obviously been heavily upgraded, as you can tell from looking at Kerbin here, with clouds good for licking as you soar through them. But that also includes visual upgrades to other planets too. The new tutorial animations are being developed to better explain how the game works to new players or just players in need of guidance. They can be accessed during the game, and the software will be able to recommend tutorials for you depending on your current location and recent explosion. As far as multiplayer co-op is concerned, all that creative director Nate Simpson said was, quote, "If you and your friends have all established a base in a certain spot and are independently bringing different kinds of resources to store at that base, then you'll be seeing a lot of people coming and going." The game, originally expected to release earlier this year, is now expected to hit the shelves in the fall of 2021, which is totally fine by me. Just make it good, team. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I want to thank my eccentric members and patrons who support the creation of this content. If you'd like to do the same and gain access to more news and other fun stuff in your week, check out the description below for the relevant links. And while you're down there, make sure you also support the local contributors who share what they capture with the SpaceX community. You all have a nominal Independence Day weekend, and until the next time, Godspeed.